Hello viewers of The Pioneer, how are you doing? I hope you're hopefully well and happy. As the Pioneer team, we continue to share with you the developments regarding the Russia-Ukraine war. In a moment, we will share with you a rather incredible developments on the front line. We clearly know how far the Ukrainian armed forces have come in the terms of unmanned aerial vehicles, and the dominance of the Ukrainian armed forces in the field of unmanned aerial vehicles has shocked the Russian armed forces. But that is why the Russian armed forces are trying to improve their drone capabilities. However, it cannot be said that the Russian armed forces have managed to become competent in these fields, because this is the ammunition and equipment developed by the Russian military are constantly encountering problems. In addition, in recent days, once again, developments related to the Russian air defense systems have emerged. In this respect, we can say that the Ukrainian armed forces are ahead of the Russian armed forces in the terms of new technology. So, what are the details of the latest operation of the Ukrainian armed forces against the Russian drone? Let's take a look together. As the Pioneer, we continue to share our reports on Russia-Ukraine war with you, so don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so that you don't miss our daily reports. You can also support me and my team by using the super thanks button below the videos. Thank you for your support. Let's start if you are ready. The Pioneer reports. So the fight between the Ukrainian armed forces and the Russian armed forces continues in the air. Since the beginning of the war, we have repeatedly reported on the dominance of the Ukrainian armed forces with the unmanned aerial vehicles. Unmanned aerial vehicles of the Ukrainian armed forces have repeatedly entered Russian territory. The drones that entered Russian territory managed to destroy very important Russian bases. On the front line, Russian soldiers' unmanned aerial vehicles have been destroyed many times. In fact, the functions of the unmanned aerial vehicles were not limited to this. Unmanned aerial vehicles also took an active role in the surrender of the Russian soldiers who wanted to surrender. The message and the instructions to be conveyed to the Russian soldiers were transmitted by the unmanned aerial vehicles. So the Air Force of the Ukrainian Armed Forces is perhaps the best known for its unmanned aerial vehicles. But not only unmanned aerial vehicles, the Ukrainian Air Force, which has achieved quite significant successes with the limited means at its disposal, has recently accomplished as a seemingly impossible task. Let's consider a drone and the fighter jet. Under normal circumstances, it would be quite easy and normal for a fighter jet to destroy an unmanned aerial vehicle, but this is not the case. The size and the volume of the fighter jet is the disadvantage for the unmanned aerial vehicle. So, nevertheless, the Ukrainian armed forces achieved a significant success. An MiG-29 fighter jet of the Ukrainian Air Force, which had a cumbersome stance in front of the unmanned aerial vehicles, managed to destroy an unmanned aerial vehicle of the Russian armed forces with an air-to-air missile. This caused a great shock on the Russian side. So, according to reports, it is unclear where this attack took place. According to the information from the regional sources, the Ukrainian missiles that destroyed the Russian unmanned vehicle was R-27. These unmanned aerial vehicles are known as drones, which the Russian military has only recently begun to develop against the Ukrainian armed forces. From this viewpoint, we can say that the Russian unmanned aerial vehicles are still not significantly developed. Images of the Ukrainian Air Force fighter jets destroying the Russian unmanned aerial vehicles were published on the social media. These images were watched and shared by millions of users, and the Russian sources were among these users, and the Russian sources are very angry. So it's not difficult to understand the anger of the Russian sources. As we mentioned earlier, unmanned aerial vehicles have the ability to maneuver faster than fighter jets. If the drone operator was an expert, he would have had a chance to avoid the air-to-air missile launch from the Ukrainian fighter jet, but it seems that even the Russian drone operators are still not used to this situation. Russian unmanned aerial vehicles are being successfully destroyed by the Ukrainian armed forces. Moreover, as I've mentioned, the Ukrainian armed forces are doing it with a fighter jet. So according to reports, the missiles that shot down the Russian Air Force reconnaissance drone was a guided medium-range long-range air-to-air missile manufactured by the Ukrainian company Artem and intended for the integration into fourth-generation fighter jets such as the MiG-29. The Ukrainian Armed Forces are obviously still developing, even if they need support from around the world. But the state of the Ukrainian war industry has reached a point that it is quite frightening for Russia. From this point of view, it can be said that the conditions of the war have brought Ukraine to a very good point. But there is also a great anger among the Russian people and the Russian sources. There were some commitments made by the Russian leadership regarding unmanned aerial vehicles, and they were commitments made by the Russian leadership that the Russian war industry was developing itself in the fields of unmanned aerial vehicles. However, it seems that these commitments have not been fulfilled, and this situation, as is known, causes anger in the Russian people. And the Russian sources show anger at the leader, Vladimir Putin, and the Russian leader in their posts of the object. One of the interesting statements on this subject is as follows. So, where are the taxes worth millions of dollars? Where are the unmanned aerial vehicles? You say you destroyed all the enemy's infrastructure and technical means, but the enemy still has better equipments than us. How is the Russian Federation still unable to defeat Ukraine? Who selects the officers in this army? Why haven't you reached a sufficient level of production? Why haven't you improved our production techniques? And when we start the war, you told us that it would be over soon. It's been 2 years. So in these 2 years, you have not achieved anything except autonomous regions that are eager to join us. You still haven't gained control here either. You have failed and you have disgraced the Russian Federation and the Russian nation to the whole world. So most of these statements are made by the Russian nationalists, and the extreme Russian nationalists are still misunderstanding the issue. According to the Russian nationalists, there is no problem with the decision to go to the war and start the war. According to them, the only problem is the failure of the Russian army. But even this is enough for the movement. At least we see that even the extreme Russian nationalists are now questioning the war. If the Russian army continues to fail, it will lead to more questioning by the Russian nationalists, and this will increase the public pressure on Vladimir Putin, the president of the Russian Federation. But now it's your turn. What do you think? How do you think the Ukrainian Armed Forces use the drone that will affect the front line? What do you think about the reactions of extreme Russian nationalists to the Russian leadership? And how do you think the failure of the Russian army will affect the attitude of the pro-war forces? Let me know in the comments, because I read and I care about your comments.